Hey everybody, it is Leah from Halleahwood, back at you with a new tutorial that I think a lot of you will like. I wanted to show you how I make, or one way or a couple of different ways on how you can make some fun frames using different patterns. And to do this, we do something called a clipping mask. I used to do it the hard way, where once you clip out your image, and I'm going to talk and work, and then I'll go back and show you kind of what I'm talking about. But once you do it, then you can't change it. Okay, so this is one way that I used to do it, and now I'll need to make this a little bigger. So it wasn't quite large enough to cover my image, but I would take this and I would select it, and I would go back down to my flower layer and I would hit Control C for copy and Control V for paste. Okay, and if I turn off my other layers, there's a frame. Excuse me. But I learned that if I don't like the location, let's say it was too much blue, I can't change it. It's just stuck there, and that's what it is. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you the right way to do it. I mean, you could do it that way if you wanted, but this is just a better way of doing it. So to explain what I did, let's start with a new layer over here. Don't want to do anything on your background layer because your background layer is white. So if I was to paint on this, then, well, if I has selected it, if I was to paint on this, then it still has that white background. So I don't want to do that. I want to always start with a new layer. That way everything is transparent when you're done. Okay, so to get that little frame that I was using, it is a brush over here on your brush tool. You'll have to go and find some of these brushes, but you can also do it with other shapes. Don't have to do it with a brush, but this is just one way that I do it. Okay, so let's pick a good one that is pretty thick. Some of these I like, some of them I don't. You can find them on Creative Market. That one's kind of fun. And I try to make it fit the whole page, okay? And so now I've got my new layer. I've got my paintbrush picked out. I'm going to click out, whoops, I'm going to click outside. Now I'm going to paint that. But now it's black and it's ugly. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and found the pattern that I wanted, and I just drag and dropped it in there. Okay, so now what we want to do is make sure that your flower or your pattern layer is on top of whatever it is you want to cut out, whatever it is you're wanting to clip, like to mask. So I've got my paper on top. If I cover that up, you see my frame on the bottom, and I'm going to make sure that my paper is highlighted, and I'm going to go up to layer, and I'm going to go down to create clipping mask. So that was layer, create clipping mask, and I'm going to click it. And when I do that, it takes everything away except for what's underneath it. And if you look over here, it has a little arrow pointing down, and now it's clipped. If I turn off my background layer, then we're good to go. I have that. Now, what makes this better is, let's say I don't like the way that this pattern looks, okay? I can click there and I can move it around. Well, it doesn't want to move around for me. But if I click my arrows, I can move the pattern around just where I want it. So this is good for if like you're doing a photograph, or whoops, there we go. The black means that's how big my paper was. If you're doing a photograph and you want like some fun edge on it, or maybe I'll show you how to do that. That would be neat. And show you what I mean. So there's that. I would turn off my background. I would go to image and trim it to make sure that there's no transparent around And then I could go save it. And we'll title it Floral Frame. I want to save it as a PNG. PNG. If you save it as a JPEG, it will create a white background. PNG is, I don't remember what it stands for, but it is transparent. And then you can save it to wherever you want to save it. Now, I had an idea here. So we're just going to test it out and see what happens. I'm going to make a new one. And I'm going to go, because I don't know where any pictures are. We're just going to go to Google. No, okay. Don't want Google. Well, and we're going to look for baby photo. No, that's wrong. I did something. Okay. Google. And we're going to go to baby photo. We'll try that again. Okay. And I'm going to steal somebody's picture just for the purpose of this video. That little sleepy boy looks good. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here. What I would usually do is make sure I get the biggest size of it. But for today, we'll just try that. Okay. Now, I want a frame on this, or I want the edges to look kind of rough, okay? So I'm going to try this. I'm going to pick a different brush. I'm going to pick one that's solid, but has some neat edges, okay? And I'm going to make it pretty big. But before I do that, I always do this. I always end up painting on top of my layer. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to make sure my brush is selected. And I think it's a little too big. So I'm going to make it a little smaller. You can always resize it. And I'm going to do that. Okay. Now you can see that my photo is a little small for the frame. So I'm going to resize this. I'm going to click on this. What is that tool called? I don't even know. The rectangular marquee tool. And then I'm going to right click on my frame or whatever. And I'm going to change it to fit on the picture here. That looks good. Now I'm going to click on my picture. I move it on top of the thing I want to clip, okay? Because I want my picture to have the shape of what's under it. So now I'm going to click on the picture and I'm going to go to, where am I going to go? Layer. What was it called? Clipping mask. Good job, you're right. Oh, and isn't that so sweet? It adds just a different touch to a picture. Instead of just putting a square, straight picture on your cup or your mug or whatever. Right? But let's say I don't like the look of that picture and I just want to focus on his face. If I was to do it the other way I was talking, where I copied and pasted, it would be stuck like this. But with doing a clipping mask, you can change it up. So I'm going to make it bigger to focus more on just his face. You see how my frame doesn't change, but my picture moves all around. And I can resize it to however I like it, okay? And then I would take away my background. I would go to image and trim it. And make sure it's going to trim everywhere. And then I can go to save it, okay? And there you have a cute little picture with some neat texture around it. Now, so that's clipping mask. Say that in your head in case you forget what it is. And to find clipping mask, you go to layer clipping mask. If you don't like the clipping mask, you can go and release it and it takes it away. But I do like it, so I'm going to keep it. Now, let's say I want to add another fun layer behind it to give it some uniqueness. I'm going to pick a different frame. Let's try see, maybe this one will be okay. And I'm going to make it, it's probably a little too big. And I'm going to resize it because it's too big. You right click and go to free transform. If you didn't catch that, you might rewind and look at that again. And I'm going to resize it. If you hold shift, it will squish it. In Photoshop and Illustrator are backwards. Illustrator, you don't have to hold, or you have to hold shift to keep it proportionate. Okay. Let's do like that and add a little bit of a angle to it because that's what I like. But it's black. I don't want it to look black. So let's go pick out a fun boy paper. Let's see if I can find one. Boy paper. I don't know. Let's try. Let's throw in some polka dots. Probably doesn't look right, but I drag and drop it. And I make sure it's going to cover everything. And then double click to import it in there. Now, gotta look over here again at my layers and I make sure that the pattern that I want is on top of the frame that I want it to eventually look like, and it is. So now I'm going to go to layer and what am I going to do? Clipping mask. And there it is. There you have it. Maybe the polka dots were too big, so you can go in here and you can right click and free transform it and bring it down a little bit. Oops. Make sure it's all covered. Squish it if I want, because you can't really tell that they're polka dots anyway. And that's cute. What if we want to add like something right here? It needs something right there, like what would be good? A little elephant. Now, usually, let's do the right way. I'm gonna go to Pixabay. These are royalty free. Let's see if they have any. They may not. Oh, look, there's a cute elephant. Let's go with this guy. These are all royalty free. That means you can use them. Log in Facebook. You can use them free and for commercial use. Pretty sure. Let's get a big size. All right. Now we're going to go to our downloads. Downloads. I want to find that little elephant guy and I'm going to drag him in here. Okay. Will it matter that he's gray? No. We just want the shape of him. I'm going to make him kind of small. Maybe over here, but I can't see him. So I'm going to make sure that I drag him up to the top. He's still a little big. So let's make him a little smaller. A little angle. Yeah. All right, so that's good. Let's go find a fun pattern. Another color. This one seems to pop up, so let's do. We'll try a gray elephant. I don't think it's going to show up very well, but we'll try. I'm going to make that paper smaller. I just need it to be on top of the elephant. Okay, so look over at your layers, make sure that it's on top. It is, so I'm going to click on that layer. I'm going to go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask. Now that didn't work, did it? I'm going to go over here and try something because that was kind of transparent. Let's see if it makes a difference if I go and fill it in with black. Nope. Okay, it's got to rasterize it. There we go. All right, so now we can see it a little better. It's still kind of hard to tell what it is, so I'm going to make a copy. I'm probably going way too fast for this. I just wanted to show you what all you can do with clipping masks because they're really fun. I made a copy of it, and I'm going to move my copy over and down a little bit. So we're going to give it a shadow effect. Okay, so I'm going to go to, what do? I usually do this on you go to filter, and I'm going to go to blur, and then I'm going to go to Gaussian blur. And that'll kind of, see how it kind of gets fuzzy behind it? So you can make it big, you can keep it kind of small, you can keep it even smaller. So I like to just kind of play around with it. Around 9 or so is good. But it's, and then to make it not look so dark, I just take down the opacity a little bit until I like it. So as you can see, the elephant kind of stands out. We can also do that with a photograph, so it stands out. So I'll go slow so you can, I know this is going to be a long video, but it's kind of fun. All right, so we want to do the same thing to the photograph. Here's the photograph. Here's its underpart. Sometimes when you copy it, it takes away the clipping mask. There's probably a way to not do that, like merge it, but I didn't want to merge it yet, so we just do that. Just move it. Okay, so that, I always go right and down a little bit for my shadows, to the right and down. Okay, but that's too harsh, so we're going to, what I did, I made a copy of the frame, right? The black over here, if you look, the black copy. On the bottom one, we're going to go to filter, Gaussian blur. And if I do that, and I don't go in to the filter, blur, Gaussian blur, if I just click on this, it'll do whatever the elephant was. It'll do the same, the last thing that it remembers. So I do that to make sure that everything on this one design is kind of all the same. And then don't forget to go down and turn down your opacity just a little bit so it kind of stands out. Makes it kind of give it that 3D thing. Okay, so we might want to do that to the other one as well. So once again, we're going to go find this bottom frame, the black copy of it, and I'm going to go down. What you do is drag it down here to copy it, and then you'll have to go back up to your paper layer clipping mask again. But that's okay. And then go down to the bottom one, move it over and down with your arrow keys, and then go to filter, Gaussian blur, and then turn down the opacity a little bit. All right, so let's add his name. Let's just make up a name, shall we? Gonna grab my text and let's pick a fun text. Font. Oh, a boy font. Let's see here. Let's just go with, well, I know I like Elfberries. Elfberries. I love this. And we're going to name him Jack, because that's a cute name for a kid, right? And if you can't see it, drag it all the way up to the top so that you can see your word, and it's too small. So I'm going to click on my rectangular marquee tool, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to free transform. Do we want to put it up top? Yeah, why not? Let's make it a little bigger. Let's angle it a little bit. And I don't like how those letters are separated. So if you hit Option on the Mac, I don't know what that is on a PC, and hit your left arrow, it will bring those letters over a little bit, but that's for another day. All right, we want to do a pattern for Jack, or do we want to just change a color? Let's just make it, why not? We're doing clipping masks, so let's just do that. All right, I'm going to rasterize this so that it's not text anymore, but now it is an object. It is the same as like the elephant right down there. It treats it the same. I can't go back and change Jack to Jackson because it's not text anymore. So now let's find, oh, let's do like a green. Maybe that would be fun and stand out a little bit. Okay, and make it a little smaller because we don't need it super big on top of his name. double click, and now it's there. Now it's on top of my word. I'm going to make sure that my green paper is selected, and I'm going to go to Layer, Create, Clipping Mask. There's Jack. Though what I probably should have done is duplicated Jack first, because I like to have that, I always forget, it doesn't matter, but I always like to have that shadow underneath him. So now we'll do it. So now we have Jack, and we have Jack here, and then we have Jack's shadow. You can go through and rename all your stuff, like some tutorials will tell you, let's rename this to yada yada. I don't do that, because why? You know, I mean, maybe, probably because my desktop on my computer is a little disorganized. I just don't. All right, so now we moved it over and to the right, but it's a little harsh. So we're going to go to Filter, Gaussian Blur. Ta-da! And turn the opacity down just a little bit. Look at there. It didn't take us very long, and we made a whole thing. This would be so cute on a mug. You can even come over here and put like his birth date on top of the elephant in white or something. But we made a whole design, right? And let's say we didn't like where Jack is, because I think it could go down a little bit. I mean, you know, maybe. If I was to click here and move, whoops, that doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to click on all of the layers that have to do with Jack and his name. So we have the paper. I'm going to hit Shift. Hit Shift, hold down Shift, and click on the other Jack, and we have Jack. Okay. Let's try. I think I can group them. Right? So now they're all together in a group. So if I was to click on this group, why is it not liking me? I don't know. And I want group. I want to move it. So now it's moving it all together. I don't know why my arrow keys don't like me. I try. See, now it's just wanting to move that one paper. So we'll just use the arrow keys for now, because I don't know. I'm not, you know, perfect at designing. I don't know everything, but I'm learning. And I'm self-taught, guys. I just do this for fun. And I just learn. I go to YouTube and look at videos and learn. That's the best way to do it. I was going to show you how to do a clipping mask in Illustrator, but I think the most of us have Photoshop. And if you don't, it's a good investment. Silhouette, I've never used it, but I know you can do a lot of things in Silhouette. But I just prefer Photoshop and Illustrator because they just work so well. All right, so now let's say I'm done. I want to go to Image and Trim and clean it all up. Okay, so it took away all the extra. If you don't take away all the extra, it'll make your file larger. And then you'll have people like, why is this not working? It's because it's so big. Okay, so there's our sweet little Jack, and we can save him. But I don't really know if this is Jack or Billy or Bob. Just a cute little boy that I found on Google. Don't do that. I wouldn't sell it like this. Gotta make sure that you have the right files that you're able to use. This elephant I can use, and this word I can use because they're commercial use. But Jack was just from the internet. He's cute. All right, so let's review just a little bit. Over here we started by saying make sure that you're not painting on your background layer. I always turn my background layer off unless I want to see how it looks. I just turn it off to make sure I can see how it looks without that, because if I have little stray marks or something, I can erase it. Okay, then we got a layer and we got our paintbrush, or you can, just like the elephant or the picture or other things that you can insert and create clipping masks with. It doesn't have to be a paintbrush, but that just makes it fun if you have them here, because they're just loaded for you and you can pick and choose what you want. We got a paintbrush and we use black. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be black. It could be any color. And then we found our paper and we drag and dropped it or inserted or file insert, whatever. And we made sure that it's on top of our frame. And then when we were all good, we went to layer, clipping mask. It says release because we already did that, but that's what we did. And then it changed. It took away everything except for what's underneath it. Ta-da! And then over here, we did the same thing, but not with a frame. We used like a shape, a little cutout shape, right? And we did that on a photograph. And so the photograph was on top. And then we had our shape underneath, made sure that it was fit where we want it. And then we were able to focus more on just his face by selecting the picture and resizing it by free transforming it, resize it up to wherever you want it. And we also created and learned very quickly how to use a Gaussian blur to help it stand out and look kind of 3D. Makes it not just a solid flat image, kind of adds texture and depth. And we also learned here on how to do that with letters. So we created the word Jack, and then we rasterized, which means it changed it from a text to an object, just like the elephant is an object. Okay, we added the background shadow effect to Jack, and we made another border also. So we created a whole design. I want you to try and comment if you were able to come up with a fun design, or if this video helped you in any way. Thanks. Bye.